Today we're gonna talk about the most revolutionary artist to ever exist according to that one blonde drunk girl I met at a baby shower last week. Taylor Swift. She is inescapable. You can't open your phone or have a casual conversation without hearing her name. So what makes her so deserving of this chokehold she has over pop culture? Well, it's because even though she's a stadium selling out mega artist, she's still the ultimate girl's girl. Taylor Swift loves cats and baking cookies for her audience and just being her quirky little self. She's building up women in ways they never realized was possible and making them feel loved and heard. Basically, she's reshaping feminism and making it cool again. In fact, Taylor Swift is so representative of modern feminism that if you don't support her, you're at risk of being called the opposite of a girl's girl, a pick-me girl. For the not chronically online, a pick-me girl is a term used to describe women who are so desperate for male attention that they'll shift their opinions, ways of speaking, and what they claim to value to appease them. They're usually seen in the wild tearing down other women and trying to convince people that they're not like other girls because they lean more masculine. And this phenomenon of calling women pick-me girls because they don't like traditionally feminine things has evolved far beyond not liking Taylor Swift. I'm about to say something that I'm gonna be sorry for, but I'm actually a pick-me. Let me give you some context. A year ago, I did something a little radical. I posted a review of the Barbie movie and said I didn't like it. Shocking, I know. But what was even more shocking were just the sheer number of comments I got calling me a pick-me girl or not a girl's girl because I thought it was bad. Some even went as far as clicking on the video and commenting that they weren't gonna watch it but wanted to let me know. By the way, guys, that's insane. But I'm an icon, so I moved on. Listen, I can take it when it comes to me. Call me whatever you want, just call me. Am I right, ladies?
We're excited to hear from you.
But it just gets to me that everywhere I look online, I see women calling other women pick-me's for being open about their negative opinions on traditionally female-coded things in media. And again, it's not just for Taylor Swift and Barbie, but for like makeup, Temu hauls, home decor trends, calling out girl math. The list is just never ending.
Alrighty, since all the pick-me's are freaking out in my comment section, let me clear a few things up.
It seems that recently as feminism, not the movement but like a vague, bastardized Taylor Swift version of it, has become more and more popular. The term pick-me has become more synonymous with just any opinionated woman who doesn't fully buy into the theory that you can fight the patriarchy with girl power, sisterhood, and living your life unapologetically. Which is ironic because attacking a woman's ideas based on her gender and not the content of her thought is inherently sexist. You bitch. Guys. And I mean that in the most gender neutral way possible because it's mainly women doing it. You have to stop calling every woman who doesn't agree with you a pick-me. So today I'm gonna defend the pick-me girl by exploring how this term's been co-opted by pop feminism and why I think Taylor Swift is to blame for this trend. That's right, I'm punching out. While I'm here, hi, my name's Ariana Alexis. So I'm currently, in the moment of filming this video, noodling around with what I'm gonna call it. So far, the working title has been In Defense of the Pick-me Girl. And if that is still the title while you're watching this, I wanted to let you know I did not misspell the word defense. You see, in Canada, where I'm from, defense is spelled with a C and not an S. So if you want to come at me in the comments for the content of the video, that's perfectly fine, you do you. But please do not go around thinking that I'm that negligent. I might be a bad speller, but I'm not careless. And with that, let's go see Office Ariana. I am so excited to talk about this, you have no fucking idea. Hi. To start our journey of how we got here, let's zoom out and talk about what exactly feminism is. At its core, feminism is the belief that women should have political, economic, and cultural equality in society. But how that definition is interpreted, and what liberties and rights people prioritize fighting for changes through time. Women's Studies 101 will tell you there have been 4 waves of feminism. The first was started in the late 19th century with the suffrage movement, where women fought for and won the right to vote. Yay for us! The second wave happened from the 1960s to 80s, when people fought for personal rights and protections, like the outlawing of marital rape, the right to abortion, or the right to open a credit card without a man, which, by the way, we only got in 1974. Highly inspired by the phrase, the personal is political, second wave feminism understood the importance of female labor in the home and demanded to be recognized in society as people and to have full economic inclusion.
Now they wanted to be accepted by men and society on their own terms.
Then came the third wave in the 90s, which tackled sexual harassment in the workplace, female representation in positions of power, and aimed to be more inclusive when it came to acknowledging that gender discrimination is experienced differently for folks whose sexual and racial profiles can't necessarily be described as straight or white, which was a major critique of the previous waves who mainly cater to the plight of white middle-class women, regardless of the issues and blind spots all 3 waves may have had. At the core of each were liberal feminist beliefs, which focused on challenging liberal democracy and achieving equality through political and legal reform. Think government, speaking up in a meaningful way, actively working towards change and policies that affect us all. It was like a group project that actually meant something. Ha! It's me, Glitter Ariana. I'm back. I'll be doing doing this periodically, so I'm not gonna introduce me again. As of making this video, we are living within a fourth wave of feminism, which is marked by a few things, like the continued fight for bodily autonomy, holding abusers accountable, equal pay. But the main thematic hallmark is this emphasis on sisterhood and solidarity, which was established by, let's say it all together, the internet. Very good. Fourth wave feminism started in about 2007 as an almost direct result of internet culture. If you were around back then, you probably remember that it was the start of social media as we know it. We went from disparate chat rooms in the Space Jam website to Facebook, Tumblr, YouTube, Twitter, MySpace even. Hi Tom. 2008 is also the year that I got accounts on all those sites, if you were curious. It's also the year that Taylor Swift turned 19. Coincidence? Definitely not. And with this surge in social media came the ability to easily connect and build community with people around the world, and mobilize in completely new ways than anyone had ever seen before. This is where large-scale global movements come from, like #MeToo or the Pussy Marches. It's because people finally felt comfortable enough to share their stories, had a platform that allowed them to speak up and be heard, and the ability to organize effectively to fight patterns of injustice we collectively faced. The proliferation of sisterhood and discussions of gendered issues caused renewed interest in feminism. And it wasn't because a bunch of old people decided to restart something they were a part of in the good old days. Fourth wave feminism was mainly made up of women who didn't necessarily appreciate the waves that came before them, or the cultural and political context of where those movements had come from. Which leads to the second thematic hallmark of fourth wave feminism and the major villain of our story, neoliberalism. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so, new thing. Neoliberalism is a political and economic ideology that encourages free market spending, limited government regulation, and this is a big one for my argument, individual freedom. Neoliberalism was popularized in the late 1980s under the governments of Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, roughly 9 years before Taylor Swift was born, for context. It promotes unfettered capitalism, pushes the idea that everyone is responsible for themselves, and defines true success as success in the free market. It's where we get the whole pull yourself up by your own bootstraps mentality, which is not how physics works. You can't pull yourself up in midair. You need leverage, support. Neoliberalism created a new form of selfhood which encourages people to see themselves as individualized and active subjects responsible for enhancing their own well-being. Collective forms of action or well-being are eroded, and a new regime of morality comes into being. It tricks people into thinking that, by working hard, they too can make it in and possibly to the top of our capitalist society.
Don't you worry about Planet Express. Let me worry about blank.
And they can't rely on anyone else to help them do that. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, but you can make it if you work within the system, and for the system rather than fight it. And it wasn't just the government that pushed this ideology. Since the goal of neoliberalism was to stimulate the capitalist economic cycle, companies and individuals who lived off the back of the working man, aka the consumer, you, also marketed the lie that the only way to better your life and gain wealth and status was through personal capitalist acts. The codifiers of neoliberalism are global power elites that include managers and executives of transnational corporations, corporate lobbyists, influential journalists and public relations specialists, intellectuals writing for a large public audience, celebrities and top entertainers, state bureaucrats, and politicians. Serving as chief advocates of neoliberalism, these individuals saturate public discourse with the idealized image of a consumerist free market world. In this world, if you want to make social change, you don't do it through collective action. That's stupid. You do it by supporting the brands that say they align with the causes that you align with. I am an LGBTQ+ ally, and I'm gonna show that I am by buying sexy M&Ms.
Sexy boots.
By the time we were in the internet age and entering fourth wave feminism, neoliberal ideas were pretty much baked into how most of us thought and functioned, including the women who were participating in this new form of feminism without understanding the waves that had come before them. I know, because I was one of those women. It was just a matter of time before neoliberalism found its way into feminism, and it seemed to be able to do that by piggybacking off the whole bond of sisterhood thing we were developing. As solidarity between women on the internet grew, rich, high-powered women started coming out of the woodwork, proudly and loudly identifying themselves as feminists, and latching themselves onto the cause. One of the most notable examples of this was Sheryl Sandberg, the acting COO of Facebook at the time, and her book Lean In, which was touted as a feminist manifesto on how to do well in the world of business and move up the corporate ladder as a woman, all while having work-life balance. Doesn't that seem so nice? Pieces like this started springing up everywhere. One of the markers of this media was the reliance on using liberal feminist language and ideas, but completely shifting the meaning of them to be less about collective and political action and more about personal choice. The central question presented in these media was this: given that women's opportunities and progress are no longer obstructed by discriminatory laws and exclusionary institutions, what are the causes of white middle-class women's continued inequality in the USA? And by inequality, they strictly meant the lack of women at the top of companies and governments. The only substantial barriers to women's success success weren't systematic, but rather internal. Basically, the average woman just doesn't believe in themselves enough or have the confidence to stand up for themselves, completely removing the political and making feminism about each person's individual actions. So for example, in Lean In, instead of challenging or even stating what's wrong with the world, the book goes on to advise women on how they can make it in corporate America.
I wish I could just go tell all the young women I work for, all these fabulous women, believe in yourself, negotiate for yourself, own your own success.
It wasn't this revolutionary feminist masterpiece everyone thought it was. It was just self-help in a Gloria Steinem Halloween costume. But apparently, the costume was convincing because the book went on to be a New York Times bestseller. Sandberg has done a TED Talk on the subject that's received millions of views. She was interviewed on Oprah about the book and her thoughts on feminism. And she was often touted as a feminist icon, akin to Betty Friedan, the author of The Feminine Mystique. These kind of books and media were so popular that in this new wave of feminism, again made up by women who weren't necessarily aware of the historical context of the previous waves, they basically changed the popular definition of the movement, which would come to be known as neoliberal feminism. Neoliberal feminism is more concerned with self-responsibility over societal change. It's aware that gender inequalities exist, but disavows the social or political roots of those inequalities. Instead, it removes the need for collective action and says that individual action, unencumbered choice, self-love, and marketplace visibility are the best ways to fight inequality. Basically, the simple act of existing and consuming while acknowledging that things aren't equal is a radical act. In associating these neoliberal behaviors with feminism, they essentially made free choice a moral right, which explains why #girlboss became such a mark of feminism before everyone got super annoyed with it. Because it's about an individual woman trying to carve herself space in the free market.
Each and every one of you are a part of the American dream because you are entrepreneurs and you own your own business.
All power to you, but that doesn't really lead to feminist change. That's just you selling yoga pants and Canva templates on Etsy. But what's the value of changing the definition of feminism into this empty husk, you may ask? Very astute question, viewer. You're really on the trolley. Well, once you convince a woman that there's nothing in her way but her own mindset, you can then sell her the solution to fix it and become more feminist. You're not happy because of inequality? Well, you're the only one stopping you from having true equality because you believe in when people tell you that you can't have it all because you're a woman. I can help you gain the confidence to fight those feelings. You just have to buy my product. Oh, and did you know that by supporting me, you're supporting another woman in the sisterhood? Which, by the way, is a radical feminist act. You don't need to protest or get politically involved. As long as you buy the pink t-shirt, you can fight the man without having to leave your couch. It's never been so easy to change the world. And this is where we get the mentality that criticizing any form of neoliberal feminism is bad. Once you make feeling good and personal choice a moral feminist right, anybody who goes against that by telling you it's not a revolutionary act is anti-feminist, aka for the patriarchal norm. And if you're a woman living in 2024, or maybe whenever you're watching this, you're a pick-me. I mean, a woman who isn't supporting woman is, by that logic, for the patriarchy, right? Okay, cool. So we're all on the same page about where the word pick me as an insult might have come from. But that doesn't explain why it's so commonly used to attack women who criticize feminist media. I mean, I get if you're offended if someone says you're not personally doing enough, but why get angry and call people pick-me's for talking shit about a movie you like? You didn't make the movie. Where's that coming from? Well, because it's not just shady CEOs turned authors who are pushing neoliberal feminism to try to sell you things. It's basically anybody who prominently uses feminism within their free market branding. Not me though, never me. Think Katy Perry and every song in her catalog. Roar or Firework or definitely Woman's World.
So soft, so strong.
Jennifer Lawrence and how we all thought she was a feminist queen because she admitted to liking pizza.
And I'm like, where's the pizza?
I like pizza. Say nice things about me. The Barbie movie and how they fought the patriarchy by just saying a bunch of hollow truths about being a woman. None of this messaging or media is inherently feminist. It's actually pretty generic and really doesn't do anything but make people feel good about themselves. But because it's said or done by a woman, it's girl power and must be protected.
I feel like I'm one of the biggest feminists, in the world because I tell women to not be scared of anything.
Sexual violence leaves you with, like a scarlet letter,
I don't care what
are
you
able to come out into the sunlight and see that we are a global community.
If guys get to show their titties on the beach, why can't we?
And now we get back to Taylor Swift, because out of all the media and celebrities that changed what it meant to be a feminist, she's the one who's recently to blame for weaponizing it, and encouraging people to attack anybody who even mildly criticizes the celebrities that promote it. Now, why would you say that, you ask? Taylor Swift has been around since like forever, and people have only recently started labeling dissenters as pick-me's. How can there be a connection? Don't worry, I'll tell you. Taylor Swift made her way into the public eye in 2006 with Teardrops in My Guitar, and ever since she's been the talk of the tabloids with her personal drama and the gossip in the songs she writes and her dating history and so on. But the Swiftie mania we're living through really only started when she announced her Eras tour in 2022. I cannot tell you the number of times I've been chastised and called a pick-me or not a girl's girl for not liking Taylor Swift in the past couple of years. Freezing cold take here, but her fans are very cultish. The $2,000 concert tickets, buying every duplicate album in different colors, praising the ground she walks on, the Eras-themed outfits. I'm gonna say it right now, it's a little out of control. Anyway, I argue the reason the word pick-me has become so synonymous with the feminist fight is because Taylor Swift has branded herself as feminist Jesus, and in doing that has taught her fans how to defend her. And that behavior is rubbed off onto so many other women who might not be her superfans, but benefit from the presence of neoliberal feminist culture. Taylor Swift has weaponized feminism like she's the Tony Stark of weak social movements. Now, I might sound like I'm exaggerating a bit with all of this, but because she's a feminist is the first answer her fans and even people who just kind of like her give when you ask them what about her is so great. They say she's authentic, she writes about the female experience, she speaks out against abusers. Taylor Swift feminism is kind of like an AI image. If you don't look too hard, it all seems very impressive. But if you stare for too long, you realize her fingers are jacked up and the words on her t-shirts are just random squiggles, and she has like 3 legs. So with that, let's use Swift as an example of how celebrities are just big neoliberal cockroach aliens wearing the rotting Vincent D'Onofrio skin suit that is liberal feminism, labeling anyone who calls her out for her jet use or sugar water addiction a pick-me.
More.
First off, since her fans love to talk about how feminist her lyrics are, let's take a long look at them.
You over there on the internet, comparing all the girls who are killing it. But we figured you out, we all know now. We all got crowns, you need to calm down. If a man talks then I owe him nothing. Don't regret it one bit, cause he had it coming. You were not a mad woman, you made it like that. You wanted a bride, I was making my own name. Ladies always rise above, ladies know people want someone sweet and kind and fun. Ladies simply have and
These are a few of her most feminist lines according to fans. But I argue they're not feminist at all. Actually, they're not saying anything. What revolutionary messages are hiding in there? You're oppressed, love yourself, you're perfect, you're not your own problem, baby you're a firework, nope, wrong person. It's just a bunch of non-specific empowering platitudes fluffing up her audience so they'll feel good enough about her to drop their money on her albums and merch. Now you're doing a little too much call and response during this video, cat audience. But I can hear you say, hey, Ariana, these are just one-off lines. Taylor wrote a whole song about gender inequality. Have you heard If I Was a Man? That's a feminist anthem. Well, thank you for asking, because I have heard it, and it isn't. Well, it does feel like it says something deep. It only hints at the concept of inequality between men and women without giving any specific examples. Just like any good piece of neoliberal feminist criticism, it reminds you that baseline inequalities exist, and that's it. No thoughtful critique, no challenging it. It's a list of stereotypes in jot form. And at that point, you're not revolutionary. You're writing a grocery list. And on top of that, if you remove the parts where she repeats, if I was a man, it would just be about her.
I guess what I'm trying to say is you're making me feel like I'm the man.
Wondering if I'd get there quicker if I was a man? Taylor, you're a billionaire who rose to fame at 16. This song isn't about discrimination, it's about power structures. And baby, you're not a firework, you're at the top of that pyramid. I would also like to add while I'm here, that it's interesting how she only tackles feminist ideas in her songs through her own very narrow experience. You wouldn't last an hour in the asylum where they raised me? Oh, I totally could. Listen, you're a rich, famous white lady, and when you asked for power as a teenager, you were given it. Is that really the lens you want to tackle female oppression through? But hey, what do I know? I'm just a pick-me. You know what? Forget the songs. Let's talk about what she does as a super badass boundary breaker. Because that's right, Taylor Swift writes her own songs. What? That's crazy. Or at least that's what her fans think. But you see, the problem with this being such a talking point is that if her fans are really supporters of female artists, they should know that this isn't really a big deal. I mean, a lot of female artists are also songwriters. Lady Gaga, Stevie Nicks, Olivia Rodrigo. Not Jojo Siwa, but you can only have so much talent in one body. So why do people act like it's some water into wine bullshit from Taylor? Well, in the music industry, there's this stigma that women don't write their own music. But Taylor has tied the fact that she does flaws into her identity as a feminist. And probably the most egregious example of this is the voice memo tracks. As we all know, Taylor started her music career as a country artist. Acoustic guitars, cheerleaders, guys named Drew.
Dreaming of one day becoming a country singer.
That was her wheelhouse. But we also all know that she wanted to make the shift to pop. This is where we get her Red album in 2012. And to help her with this transition, she hired a whole bunch of predominantly white male producers to shape her sound, and it worked like gangbusters. And listen, I'm not against hiring white men because they're white men, but like if she's such a girl's girl and wants to like lift up other women in the industry, you would think that she like would have hired a couple of women, but like she didn't really do that or talk about the ones that she did hire, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, moving on. If you were wondering why I Knew You Were Trouble was such an uncharacteristic bop for her, it's because the two producers she hired, Max Martin, who produced Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears, and Shellbach, who produced So What by Pink, forged it in the flames of Swedish house music, or whatever it's technically called, which, by the way, I love. I Knew You Were Trouble is a banger, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. The Times noted that I Knew You Were Trouble has a dubstep wobble that arrives halfway through like a wrecking ball, changing the course not just of the song, but also of Miss Swift's career. Great, wonderful, I'm so happy for her. There was a problem though. Because Taylor was now playing in a genre oozing with gendered songwriting hierarchy, and these albums didn't sound like anything else she had ever done, the musical criticism community threatened her authorship, which I would like to put on the record that it is wrong. I think it's wrong that they did that. People were questioning how much of the songs she had written, or if she had even written them at all. And fair enough, Taylor could not let that stand. So on her next album, 1989, she released 2 tracks called The Voice Memos, which were basically her ideations for the songs Blank Space, I Know Places, and I Wish You Would, as Taylor describes them.
I've gotten a lot of questions about songwriting, about the process, about, you know, what happens when you get an idea. The answer is the first thing I do is I grab my phone and I either sit it on the edge of the piano or put it right down on my bed in front of my guitar and I play. I actually have 3 bonus tracks that are just voice memos from my phone.
Now this could be seen as a cutesy pandery thing for her audience. She wants to seem accessible, her fans want to wear her like a Vincent D'Onofrio skin suit. Putting out the voice memos fit everyone's needs. Perfect. But if you think about it in the context of Red and people saying she didn't write her own music, these tracks allowed her to publish the receipts that she was a lyrical island. With them, she cracked the stereotype, showing that women could write songs just as well as men. Except she only cracked it for her. You see, at no point during this stunt did she ever say anything about why she felt it was important to release the voice memos. She didn't call out the music industry or say anything about the misconceptions she was challenging. Nothing. She just sat there vapidly like an apple pie American Girl doll and shilled her album. People are taking out the garbage. They have a right to. I just don't. I'm just recording and I'm annoyed. She leveraged the misogyny and made it part of her personal brand that she was one of the only women talented enough to break the glass ceiling. When in reality, other women do it all the time. They just don't make it something that sets them apart from other girls, like a pick-me would do. So when her fans say she's a feminist boundary breaker because she writes her own songs, what they're actually doing is diminishing the talents of other female artists and feeding into the patriarchal system that keeps them down. But it's okay. Feminism means you doing you and not caring what anyone thinks as you girl boss your way to the top. Because gender equality's fine, but succeeding in capitalism is so much better. And another fun fact, not all copies of 1989 had the voice memos. You could only find them on ones exclusively sold at Target.
There's only one place to get more Taylor.
Which means in addition to blowing smoke up her own ass, she also encouraged her fans to line the pockets of an unethical box store filled with cheap items made by underpaid women in third world countries. I'm very well aware there's no ethical consumption in capitalism, but at least hide it better. That's not very schway of you, Taylor. Not very cash money of you at all. This is just one example of how Taylor refuses to use her power to help anyone other than herself. Now, to that you might say, Ariana, you couldn't be more wrong. Taylor does make the world a better place. She helped Biden win against Trump in 2020 by endorsing him. She was called a silence breaker by Time magazine for calling out a DJ for grabbing her ass. She re-recorded all of her albums so known jerkbag Scooter Braun, who owned the masters of her records, couldn't get any money from people buying the originals. She's so revolutionary. Okay, let's play ball. Jesus, my hair. I look like David Dobrik. 1. Regarding the Biden situation. Taylor is famously non-political, and when she is, it's because she feels she needs to be. When she did get around to endorsing Biden in 2020, It was late in the game, every celebrity was already doing it, and she didn't want to make her fans angry because they were pushing for her to say something, and she was promoting her new album at the time, Evermore. Hi, editing Art here. Welcome to my kitchen. So I just wanted to add to that based on the current political climate I'm living through right now versus when I filmed the original section of this video. I am very well aware that Taylor said she regretted waiting so late in the game to endorse Biden in 2016. I completely appreciate that. And at the time of recording this video, she has already endorsed Kamala, which is so great. I am so happy she's using her voice and her privilege in a productive way. Her endorsement came off the back of two separate controversies. One, Trump was circulating around AI images of her with signs basically saying that she supported Donald Trump. Not okay, she definitely didn't do that. And two, one of her NFL wife friends basically came out and supported Trump on Twitter. But people were waiting for Taylor to like say something on it or call her out. And instead, the next time they saw each other, they like hugged and hung out and like just looked super chill, which is her prerogative. But people were already criticizing Swift for not getting as involved in this election as she should have, especially given everything that had happened with Trump and Biden beforehand. So very shortly after these two like bang bang kind of things happened, she then put in her voice for Kamala after the Kamala Trump debate. Great, wonderful. But if you look at it in the context of everything we've talked about and everything we're going to talk about later, it really does fit into this pattern of Taylor only doing things that directly benefit her. So when she was called out again for not doing enough politically, that's when she decided to act. Not any sooner, not any later, exactly at the moment where people were starting to like say shit. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And I felt like I needed to add this portion to it because I already talked about the 2016 election. And at the time of recording and writing the original video, she hadn't really been involved in the 2024 election, so I didn't want to like put anything out there that wasn't already being spit out. So yeah, that's that. Back to the video. 2, Swift may have called out her abuser, but the thing is she only called out her abuser. Outside of that, she largely remained silent when it comes to openly starting public discourse around the subject. And no, privately throwing money at Kesha's legal fees when she was battling Sony and Dr. Luke in court doesn't count. It was a nice gesture towards an individual, but that is not speaking out against a culture of sexism and harassment in the entertainment industry. And 3, by making Taylor's version of all her records and diverting money from Scooter, which I'm all here for in theory, she was able to make 70 different versions of each record in different colors with different secret songs like little Taylor Swift Pokemon cards, so fans felt compelled to buy every version of every album to catch them all.
This time around, we're going to include these photo packets. They're prints in the physical albums. And there will be 13 in each pack, but there will be different packs, so you'll get various different kinds of photos.
So everything in them is different except for the album's the same.
No! So if it's the same album, they're not different. Now that is very cash money of you. Still not very shui. The astute viewer may notice a pattern here. Taylor Swift only does things that can be seen as revolutionary feminist acts when she can benefit from them. But if you call her out on that or bring up her privilege regardless of gender, she goes straight for the jugular, saying exactly what she's trained her cronies to say. If you attack woman, aka me, in any way, you're attacking feminism. Like how she threatened to take legal action against a writer who called on her to condemn white supremacy in her fan base, or sue the kid who blew the whistle on her excessive private jet usage, or got super defensive against Nicki Minaj in 2017 for tweeting that award shows didn't appropriately represent black artists because Taylor thought she was insulting her numerous award wins that year. She has zero problem throwing anyone under the bus, man or woman, if she feels even a little threatened. Taylor once misquoted Madeleine Albright when she said, "There's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women." Well, if that's true, Taylor, I hope you and whoever this girlie is enjoy eternal damnation together. But still, she continues to convince people that to be a feminist is to be empowered and be yourself and to fight back when you feel slighted and to show your allegiance to the cause by supporting other feminists. It's about brainwashing women into thinking that living and consuming is an act of defiance, and that being a feminist means not questioning those in your defined sisterhood. And if you do that right, you get a legion of brand loyal soldiers who refuse to critically think about anything you do and are willing to attack anyone who challenges your leadership. This gives her audience an easy way to feel like they're doing something meaningful. Her audience being mainly well-to-do white women with low levels of adversity and the willingness to pay to show their allegiance to the cause. It's just a lot of women whose safety and livelihood aren't directly benefited by addressing systemic racism, patriarchy, and homophobia, so they don't. And this is why her fans and other women who have fallen for this mindset call people who attack neoliberal feminist media pick-me's. Again, if you're labeled as anti-feminist, you're misogynist, misogynist, and if you're a female misogynist, you're a pick-me.
Now, this kind of behavior of calling women that disagree with you pick-me's isn't just bad because, let's be real, it's bullying. I think it can also lead to some legitimately dangerous outcomes. One, it eliminates any possibility of productive conversation. If you refuse to engage with anything someone says because they don't completely agree with you, you cut yourself off from growth and learning. When you don't watch someone's negative review of the Barbie movie because you loved the movie and comment something like, you don't like the movie because you're a pick-me, you don't get to hear the part of the video where they say the film doesn't go hard enough into intersectional feminism. You're turning your back on a new insight that you might agree with, but you'll never hear in your echo chamber. And two, I found that women who call other women pick-me's tend to clump people who don't like their movies and celebrities in with legitimately harmful conservative political voices. Just Pearly Things, Candace Owens, Caitlyn Bennett, people who straight up push hate. Calling these people pick-me and not engaging with or fighting back against their ideas in a productive way trivializes what they're saying and doesn't acknowledge the actual threat they pose. It's giving,
they're only spewing racist, sexist, classist, homophobic shit to impress men. It's not that serious.
But the thing is, by allowing them to go unchecked, you're allowing them to convert other people over to their ways of thinking, which can have serious real-world implications. These women aren't pick-me's. They don't just want sex. They're assholes with horrible beliefs that should be appropriately dealt with. People like to say that being a pick-me girl is because of internalized misogyny, and I'm sure it is for some people. But let me tell you, saying someone thinks the way they do because they're desperate for male approval is a lot more toxic and misogynistic than criticizing a billionaire for some legitimately shady shit.
Listen, you're not gonna agree with everyone you meet. And heck, maybe you lash out at people sometimes not because you don't like what they think, but because you don't like them or the cut of their jib or whatever. Maybe you don't like that person because them attacking something you've turned into your personality feels like they're attacking you. I get it. I also get defensive about things that I love. That's okay. But how dare you belittle them and their ideas based on how horny you think they are? If being a girl's girl is respecting and supporting and lifting up other women, you're not being a girl's girl at all. You're a shill for a capitalist system that uses watered down versions of feminism to keep women complacent. But hey, at least I'm not saying you think that because you want to fuck Taylor Swift. And that is way more credit than you're willing to give me.
Sexy boots.
And that is my defense of the pick-me girl. Have you been called the pick-me girl for not liking girly things? Or if you're a guy and you know somebody who's been called the pick-me for not liking girly things, let me know in the comments. And now we get to the sponsor of this video, me. I'm the sponsor. And with this spot, I'm promoting the last video I made about why McDonald's doesn't use Ronald anymore. It's a very good video. I'm very proud of it. It did not get enough love. So go check it out now. If you like this video and you want to support the channel, you can push the like button, subscribe. And if you want to see what I'm doing in my life outside of YouTube, you can follow me on Instagram at 500 Days of Ari. I'll see you guys later. Bye.